Good afternoon and welcome to the January 6th edition of Success by Association Live. This issue is sponsored by the new Bern Riverfront Convention Center. We thank them for their steadfast support of AENC. Today's article is written by Cody Hill and is reprinted with permission. The article is titled The 2021 North Carolina General Assembly, 5 Insights for State Associations. On January 13th, 2021, the North Carolina State Government, the General Assembly, will convene for the beginning of the long session. As a state association, you're expected to set the tone for your industries and members when it comes to interacting with state officials and legislation. Though federal news and legislation dominates headlines, state government bills and their various amendments can quickly change industries, modify regulations, and affect budgets that will affect you and your members. After November's election, the state political landscape is increasingly complex for associations, and being on top of fast-moving legislation is of utmost importance. Below are 5 things to think about when it comes to the 2021 General Assembly sessions. Number 1, COVID effects and technology in state politics. As COVID continues to shape the way we run our businesses and personal lives, it will also affect how the operations surrounding the General Assembly operate. It is expected that legislators will still hold in-person sessions, committees, and meetings with enhanced COVID-19 protocols. However, lobbyists, state affairs professionals, and the general public will not be attending sessions in person as in previous years. Having technology to assist you with understanding legislation movement and implications for your association will be more important in 2021 than ever before. Technology surrounding the processes of politics has always been far behind the private sector. Having better systems in place to alert and help analyze legislation on the federal level has recently been gaining investor attention, with companies like Fiscal Note raising large amounts of funding. However, on the state legislation level, as with North Carolina, technology is much further behind. Recently, Triangle-founded startups like upstate North Carolina have been focused on bringing smart technology solutions for state associations to stay on top of legislation for their specific industries and members. Number 2, the 2020 election results and implications. In this past November election, nearly all 170 North Carolina General Assembly seats, 50 in the Senate and 120 in the House, were up for grabs. The main takeaways are that the Republicans gained 4 seats in the state House of Representatives, and the Democrats gained 1 seat in the state Senate. Governor Roy Cooper rode a wave of increased support as he was reelected and increased his margin of victory from 0.2% in 2016 versus Pat McCrory to 4.5% in 2020. In terms of legislator turnover, 15% of the legislators in the General Assembly will be new members, with 8 new senators and 18 new representatives starting in 2021. The Republicans will enter the 2021 session maintaining majorities in both chambers, 28 to 22 in the Senate and 69 to 51 in the House. However, the Republicans do not have a veto-proof majority in either, so they will have to work with Democrats to pass legislation. This means that the Republicans will have the upper hand when it comes to some of the most hot-button issues on the slate for 2021, such as state redistricting, Department of Transportation funding, Medicaid transformation, education funding, and broadband expansion, amongst many others. As a state association, understanding legislation changes and knowing when to activate your members for advocacy campaigns will be crucial for success in 2021. On the federal election level, the urban-rural divide trend continued this past election as well. Donald Trump gained support in 52 out of 100 counties in North Carolina. However, in 8 of the top 10 most populous counties, Trump lost by at least 3% more than he did in 2016. Another interesting trend was party switching between Senate and President votes. In 31 out of 100 counties, there was at least a 4-point margin in party switching, with many Cunningham to Trump voters coming from rural areas and many Tillis and Biden voters coming from more populous areas. Number 3, the state budget. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected both state and local governments' revenues over the past year. Local governments across the state have felt the impact of cuts in almost every revenue stream, from utility payments to shuttered businesses and the decline in sales tax. Despite the loss of this revenue, cities still had to figure out how to provide and pay for essential services while facing unprecedented financial shortfalls. In May, the state estimated that it would face a $2 billion fiscal shortfall heading into 2021. The General Assembly's Republican leadership and Governor Roy Cooper still haven't agreed on a complete budget since 2018 and have instead opted to pass various mini budgets providing funding to the state's most pressing issues. Despite the projected decrease in revenue, the state finds itself with $4 billion in unspent revenue surplus. The $4 billion comes from increased tax revenue collections, unappropriated funds, and cash that has been sitting in a rainy day fund. Legislative leaders will now be under pressure to decide on how to spend the money. Democrats have called for immediate distribution of funds towards the COVID-19 economic recovery package, while Republican leadership has intimated that they would rather see the funds go towards a comprehensive 2-year budget bill. Staying on top of budget changes as they roll out during the long session has traditionally been tough, as the documents are long, detailed, and really hard to digest. Unfortunately, budgets can also have tremendous effect on the funding and operations of industries and members represented by state associations. With budget season approaching soon, companies like Upstate North Carolina have rolled out a tool that instantly analyzes all North Carolina budget changes so that you or your lawyers don't have to reread long, monotonous legal text to find out how a budget may affect you in 2021. Number 4, data, bills, committee substitutes, and learnings from the 2019 to 2020 General Assembly sessions. Each year, thousands of bills enter the North Carolina General Assembly. Upon introduction, bills start their journey through a long and often confusing process of being heard, amended, reread, voted on, passed around, ratified, and ultimately signed into law or not. To help untangle some of the complexities around this process, below are some basic statistics of the legislation landscape from the last session. So for 2019 to 2020, there were 2,109 total bills introduced. 580 of these bills had at least one amendment. That's 27.5% of the total. There were 1,165 total different amendments for all these bills that were introduced, which is over 50%. There were 337 committee substitutes adopted, which is 16% of the total. There were 25 executive vetoes, nine veto overrides that failed, and 3 veto overrides that passed. In total, 380 bills ended up becoming law. And of the bills that get introduced each year and have a chance at making it through both chambers and to the governor, many of them go through a series of amendments, language changes, compromises, and edits between the political parties. One notoriously difficult type of amendment that can be made is a committee substitute. This is when the bill can change entirely once it gets into committee, and often will not reflect the original meaning of the bill. These substitutes are often kept secret and not digitized until much later in the process, which makes them hard to track and understand their meaning. Legislators can use this as an underhanded way to add language or change a bill entirely, which may not have made it into committee in the first place. There are many unfortunate stories of association members having to storm the General Assembly in Raleigh when a bill that has been substituted quickly moves to vote, and knowledge of the bill's effect is not known until very late in the process. As COVID continues to make technology more important in tracking and analyzing state legislation, it's important that you're aware of all the bill changes that could affect your industry and your members. Having a firm grasp on a bill's potential implications where it currently is in the legislature, when it's amended, and when it's scheduled to be voted upon should be a top priority for association leaders. Number 5, advocacy for associations in 2021. The uncertainty of the political landscape in 2021 makes it imperative that state associations have a clear strategy and well-defined tactics for activating their members and supporters for advocacy campaigns. There are various methods of mobilizing support, but being strategic about when to launch campaigns and which legislators to target is key. A good first step is to identify which House and Senate committees will be hearing the bills that affect your industries. Narrowing your focus to the committee level is more efficient because you have to convince fewer members in order to change the outcome of a vote. State legislators care enormously about maintaining a good image in their hometown media. Every legislator wants to generate positive local press coverage that makes them appear hardworking and responsive to their constituents. They want to appear in touch, well-liked, and competent. They want to get local media coverage of their work on certain policy issues whenever possible. Focusing on the local media and hometowns of committee members that will be hearing your bill is key. So, upstate North Carolina and how we support North Carolina state associations and their legislative efforts. At Upstate North Carolina, we've built North Carolina's best legislative tracker, bill and budget analysis tool, and advocacy platform for state associations. We work with dozens of associations, lobbyists, and nonprofits to make sure they can best represent their members' legislative priorities. Check out how we can help state associations specifically. There's a link for a video here, or book a free demo on our website. If you need, we act as insurance to make sure that you're on top of everything that could affect your industry in 2021. Contact our team at 703-380-9962 or email me, Cody, at keepupstate.com. You can also visit our website at start.keepupstate.com. Thanks so much. We look forward to talking with you all and helping you better understand legislation for your industries in 2021.